Okay, so let me share my screen again. And today I'm also doing directly recording on YouTube so that it becomes easier. So we'll start with prayers. So share my screen again. And today I'm also doing directly recording on YouTube so that. Okay, we'll start with prayers. These are the prayers which are mentioned in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita in the introduction sessions. And this is called Mangalacharan prayers. What it means is these prayers bring all the auspiciousness and gives us the intelligence, gives us the blessings of previous gurus and acharyas, so that we can assimilate the knowledge and understand the message which is being given in this Bhagavad Gita. Very wonderful prayers. Before we start any class, we should recite these prayers, and there is also English translation for each prayer. Okay, so I'll just start. Om Agyanam Tibirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadagamelam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyeva cha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaye Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadeshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So welcome everyone for our second session of this series of classes, which is named as Key Concepts. So we are not going verse by verse, but we are going to discuss the key themes in Bhagavad Gita, key concepts in Bhagavad Gita, which is explained by Lord Krishna to Arjun, and this is basically an instructions, a set of instructions for all the humanity at large. Okay, so last class, just to give you a recap, we discussed that Bhagavad Gita talks about 5 basic truths, right? It talks about jivas. Jivas are the living entities. Living entities, there are several millions and billions, like their living entities are unlimited, infinite living entities. So it talks about what are those, what are their characteristics. Then it talks about Ishwar, who is a controller, Prakriti, nature, Kal, time, and Karma, activities. And then it also talks about the relationships between each of this, like what is the relationship between the living entities and the supreme controller, how nature affects the living entities, how time or circumstance, Kal, impacts the jivas, and also the karma. Talks about karma, what is karma yoga, all these things. Okay, so, and then we discuss about the signs of victory of Pandavas, like when the battle of Kurukshetra started in the beginning in chapter 1, Dhritarashtra asked this question that what are my sons, what are the Pandavas and my sons are doing, and then Sanjay informed Dhritarashtra indirectly about what are the signs of victory of Pandavas. Okay, so that's where we ended, completing this section. So today we'll just resume from where we left. So after Sanjay informed Dhritarashtra and about the science of victory and everything, and then he explained the battle formation. And then Arjun, he explained that Arjun is not willing to fight because he was and he gave up his bow and arrow and put it down. And primarily there were 5 reasons or 5 arguments which Arjun was giving not to fight, and those were compassion, loss of enjoyment, fear of sinful reactions, destruction of family traditions, and finally indecision. So because in the battlefield, the other side was all Arjuna's near and dear ones. So he was having a lot of compassion and he does not want to kill any of his loved ones. So he say like, how can I kill my uncles, my grandfather, my teacher, right? And my cousins. So that was first reason. Second reason which he gave is enjoyment, that how will I enjoy my kingdom even if I win this war at the cost of lives of my family members? Like what, like I will not be able to enjoy. That's the second reason he gave. Then third reason he gave, he was fearing about the sinful reactions which he may incur by killing so many people and also killing his superiors and family members. And fourth reason he gave is destruction of family traditions, that with the death of so many great Kshatriyas, there would be so many widows, so many women will lose their husbands, and then there could be a destruction of complete family traditions. So that's the fourth reason. And finally, indecision, that Arjun was not convinced like, which is better path. Should he conquer his enemies or get conquered by them? So he was completely in a depression and not able to decide what to do. And in this situation, what he did is he immediately surrendered to Krishna. So he said like, I'm unable to decide, so I surrendered to you. So at that moment when he surrendered to Krishna, that's when Krishna started speaking about Bhagavad Gita, because at that moment their relationship changed from that of a friends to now a teacher and the disciple, because he accepted Krishna as his guru and surrendered to Krishna and asked him to give his direction, educate him about what he should be doing. And that moment, Krishna started speaking Bhagavad Gita, and he mentioned that you are talking like a learned person, but but you are actually talking like a foolish, like you are acting as if you are very learned, but you are foolish, because you are giving all these kinds of reasons which are not worthy, not valid. And we'll see what Krishna speaks further. But in the beginning, he says specific word mudha, meaning you are acting as a foolish person. And although you seem to be very learned, but you are not, right? So then Krishna started speaking Bhagavad Gita with the science of soul. Like he instructed Arjuna about the soul, the Atma, right? So why we should know about soul, let's understand this, like why we should know about this science of soul. So if I ask you a question, and here I need, if you can be on camera, that would be very good. I see only Venkat Prabhu here. Okay, now I see one more, because I just want to be like a more of this one interactive. Otherwise, it would become very boring where only I am speaking and you are just listening. So just question for everyone. We see sometimes if someone is roaming on the road and he forgets his identity, right? And he's acting as if he doesn't know who he is, then what do we call that person?
It's just lost somewhere.
Yeah, lost person, right? Or
maybe he's mentally sick.
Right, mentally sick, mad person, right? Or crazy person. Like we do see these people sometimes on the road, like who are completely lost. They don't know where they are going, and they have lost their sense. So can we teach anything to that person? Like if I instruct this message, can we teach them? No, right? We cannot, because they are not in that position to understand. Similarly, if someone forgets their spiritual identity, the true identity, then the Shastra says he's no better than the mad person, because if he's acting and if he has forgotten his true identity, then he's no better than a crazy person, a mad person, and he's simply living in a ignorance, right? So, and how a mad person behaves, like if you go to a hospital in mad, like, so when the doctor comes, he thinks that he's right, and he thinks that this doctor who is treating him is mad actually. So mad person always thinks he's good, but all others are mad. That's how they think, that all others are crazy. So that is the reality. Like if I put this analogy in today's world, so the sadhus or the learned people or the saints is considered a doctor. And today, if someone becomes a sadhu or a saintly person, right, at a young age, what generally people say, that this guy has gone mad. Like, does he not have any other work? He's just gone mad. So here, point to understand is, like, almost 99% of the humanity is living in ignorance, where they do not understand what they really are, what is their true identity, right? And without understanding our true identity, we cannot make any progress, and we will be simply living in ignorance. At the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, when we chanted those prayers, we said, Om Agyanam Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakya. What it means is that I was born in darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. So every one of us actually born in complete ignorance. And because when we are born, we don't know anything. It's like we start from zero, and then the spiritual master is the one who imparts this spiritual knowledge with the torch of light. So what is our true identity then? Who really we are? Like, if I ask someone, who are you? Like, then what do you say? Who are we really? Like, the identity does not change. Because if I say I am so and so person, I was born in this country, I am American or I am Indian, and I work here, this is all relative to our bodily platform, right? Because today I can claim I am Indian, but your citizenship can easily change. You can become Canadian tomorrow, or you can become American. Similarly, so all the designation which we have is at the bodily level, and we know that this body has certain duration, maximum 100 years. After that, body, everyone has to leave this body, right? So that's why Lord Krishna started this message of Bhagavad Gita not by explaining about himself, but by explaining about the soul, right? That we truly are actually the spirit soul, and this outer covering which we identify with as a body is just an outer covering which is covering that soul. And throughout the Bhagavad Gita, this message was given that we are keep changing these bodies as per our activities or karmas. So and right now we had this human form or human body, but that does not mean that we should take it for granted that we will always be having this human form. Like there are, as I mentioned in last class, 8.4 million species, and every species of life has the same spirit soul. So that's the amazing part of this Lord's creation or nature, that there are infinite jivas, and all these falls under the category of jivas. Jiva means living entities. Even a small bacteria which we see in will also have soul, and a giant tree will also have the same soul, right? And we also as humans have the same soul. So actually we are the soul, and we have been given this body by the arrangement of the nature to achieve a specific purpose. But we are not this body. right? Just to give you an analogy, like when we, let's say I am right now in Brampton and I need to travel to Montreal, for example. Now I will take my car and I sit in the car and I go, right? And I reach my destination, Montreal, let's say in 6 hours. So I am the driver inside the car and then I'm driving the car, but that doesn't mean that I am the car, right? Car is given to me as a means to achieve my destination, to reach from, start from point A and reach point B. Similarly, we have been given this body as we were driving car to reach from point A to point B, but we are not this body, right? So the car is, we will never say I am the car. Similarly, we should not say that I am this body. Another analogy we give, when someone leaves the body, we say that this person has gone. So who has gone? Because the person whom we identify with, whom we know, who are talking, he's right there, like his body is there. So that means something has gone out of the body, which we are saying that this person has now gone. We say like this so-and-so person has left for the heavenly abode, right? Normally we say. So who has gone? Because the person whom we were talking, whom we were seeing all throughout our life is right there, but he's not moving anymore. So that means there is certain thing in the body which has left the body, and then at that time we say that this person has left and this person is now has died. So that person actually is the soul, and that's we. That is our true real identity, that we are actually the soul. So theoretically, first we have to understand, and then in practice, when we practice more, then we come to this conclusion that yes, we are the soul, and then our actions will start. Basically, we will do our actions based on this understanding that yes, we are the soul. Because unless we come to this conclusion, then we are just simply acting at the bodily level. And Arjuna was actually, when he was giving all those reasons of not to fight, all the reasons were at the bodily level. And then Krishna started this message of Bhagavad Gita by giving him the understanding of soul. So Arjun was just like acting as an ignorant person, like a mad person. And then Krishna removed his ignorance in chapter 2. In just 3-4 minutes, he finished the chapter 2. So it just took Arjun just 4 minutes to understand this whole truth. And for many of us, it may take several years or even lifetime to understand this, because we are in an ignorant position. So first we need to understand. So what is this soul? The soul is actually the spark of life, right? And the main symptom of soul is the consciousness, that Chetana, which is spreading throughout the body. See, I am able to talk, I am able to move my hand, I am able to see because of the energy which is provided by that soul which is inside us, which is there covered in the body. What you see outside is simply a body, but the energy or the consciousness which is energizing that body is coming from soul. Do you agree? Anyone has any questions here so far? Are you with me? Able to follow?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes? Okay. Because this is very important to understand, because that soul is the spark of life, and the symptom of soul is this consciousness which is spreading within the body. As soon as soul leaves the body cannot move, body cannot talk, and then it starts decomposing, it starts decaying. Why is that? Because something has left the body, and that something is actually soul, which is we, right? So, and then Krishna talks about the nature of the soul in this Bhagavad Gita, and he says that there was never a time when I did not exist, because Arjun was mourning. He was worried about what will happen to his grandfather and uncles and all that. So then Krishna says that there was never a time when I did not exist, you did not exist, and all these relatives or friends or kings did not exist. So that means when I say I did not exist, you did not exist, he was referring to the true identity soul. So the soul is always eternal. There was never a time when we were not there. We were there from time immemorial. We have been there from the beginning of, you can say. We cannot trace back when we came into existence. We may be saying like I am 30 years old, 40 years old, but that is just relative to this life. But we have been existing from time immemorial, right? That means we have been going and taking different forms, different bodily forms from millions and billions of years. We cannot even trace back in the history when we came into existence. So Arjun, then Lord Krishna tells Arjun that there is no point to lament because we have been always existing. There was never a time when we did not exist, and there will never be a time when we will cease to exist. That means we will never die. The soul can never die. What actually happens is at the time of death is Krishna says like as we change our clothes, when the clothes become old and torn out, similarly the soul changes the body, right? Because the body which he's residing in becomes old, unusable, then he simply changes the body at the time of death. So simply at the time of death, what happens is your next destination is already determined based on your actions which you have been doing, based on your thoughts which you have been doing in this life. Your next destination is already determined, and as soon as one leaves the body, the soul goes to his next destination. So that means it's very important that we cannot think that sometimes people think, okay, there is no life after this, just enjoy this, make merry, everything, just forget about what will happen to me next. But that's not the case, because whatever actions we do in this life, whatever thought process we build, whatever desires we had, will determine our next life, right? Will determine next. And this cycle keeps going on and on and on from time immemorial. Like we have been taking multiple bodies after bodies after body. So then intelligent person will think that why I should keep, like nobody wants to die. You know why nobody wants to die? Because that's the nature of the soul. From where that desire is coming that I should not die, because that's the nature of soul. Soul is eternal. But still we have to go through this cycle of birth and death again and again and again, right? So someone will ask that, someone intelligent person will ask that nobody wants to die, but still why we should be dying in material world, right? Why we should die, why we should suffer. So as per our scriptures, the 4 problems of material world is everyone has to take birth, and birth, the family which gets where the new baby born, they are so joyful, they are so happy. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's mentioned that the birth is again a problem. Why it's a problem? Because that particular soul, he has to suffer a lot throughout that 9 months when he's in the womb of the mother. So it's not a pleasant situation. Like he cannot move. He's under so many in a filthy situation, and is kind of encaged upside down. And that moment when he's upside down clearly explains that the soul was able to bear that situation because he is in constant company with the super soul or Bhagwan. And at that moment, he prays to the Bhagwan, to super soul, that please help me, I am in this terrible situation, please help me, and I will promise you that I will perform bhakti, I will dedicate my life for in your service. And that's how he comes out. And as soon as he comes out, because of the effect of nature, everything he's forgotten, everything he forgets about his previous life, because this remembrance and forgetfulness is also coming from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna says that I give this remembrance and I give this memory to remember anything. Okay, so then I was talking that there are 4 problems which nobody could solve in this material world, no matter how much advancement we can make, material advancement. That's the birth, death. Like the scientists are trying their very hard to to prolong the life of humans and conquer death. But till today, not even single person, big tapasvis, big you can say powerful people have come and gone, but nobody was able to conquer death. Right? So birth, death, old age, that's the third problem. Whoever has taken birth, his body deteriorates on and on and on, and ultimately the old age has to happen. Nobody can escape the old age. And fourth problem is disease. In this material world, we have seen our body gets diseased. Sometimes we get chronic diseases. Sometimes we get life-threatening diseases like cancer, heart problem. Recently, we have whole world has came out of COVID-19, that virus, the disease. So these are the four problems which makes this material world not a happy place to be in, right? Because every one of us here has to face these four problems: birth, death, old age, and disease. And Hindi is called Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Jan, birth, Mrityu, death, Jara means old age, and Vyadhi means disease. And then the intelligent person will ask this question, that why I should suffer in this world? Why I'm here, like what I'm doing? And is there a world where I can go where these sufferings are not there? Where I can just live happily, eternally, and then not worry about old age, disease, birth, that not worry about losing my near and dear ones, right? Because here we keep hearing this person passed away, someone's uncle passed away, and someone this passed away. So it's so painful when you have to bear that pain for someone separating from you, whom you lived for close to 60, 70s, 80 years, whom you know, right? So is there a place where we can go where all these sufferings are not there, right? So these are the questions which we should ask to ourselves and inquire. And that's the beginning of spiritual quest, like beginning of understanding the spiritual knowledge. In Vedanta, there is this philosophy, Aham Brahmasmi, that I am the spirit soul. So actually, Krishna also began his teaching to Arjuna by chastising him, that you do not know anything, still you are acting as a learned man. So this is actually the fault of many of us, or I would say everyone thinks that they are the most knowledgeable, that they know everything, but actually we don't know, right? That is the fault of any person which is devoid of spiritual knowledge. And our education system has degraded over the time to the extent that this knowledge is no more part of our curriculum when we are growing up, and every man in this world, or women, or every children is devoid of this spiritual knowledge. But still they are proud of their learning, like they are proud of their degrees, their knowledge, their bank balance, but all of that will not help, because at the time of leaving this body, everything will remain here. That's the irony. No matter how much degrees you may have, you may earn PhD, how much educated you may have, how much wealth you may acquire, but at the time of leaving this body, when the time comes, everything remains here, and then the person has to start all over again from zero, ABCD again. And sometimes people have to go through so many challenges, like in their lives, right? So, and if you ask any learned scientist or professor, who are you? He will say, I am so and so. I am American. I am John. So this is all ignorance. This is this is identity of a person, but that's not the true identity. These are just the external designations at the bodily level. So as long as we are identifying with this body, then we are actually in ignorance. But when we actually understand and realize that we are not this body, but we are the soul, we are part and parcel of Lord Krishna, we are the spirit soul, then our spiritual understanding begins. Okay. So I just take a pause. Any questions so far about this? Because this is very important concept to understand, that we are the spirit soul and not this body. And this body is a vehicle exactly the word used in Bhagavad Gita. It's a vehicle which is given for us, meaning soul, for a specific purpose, particularly this human body. And then Krishna says that when one actually understands this fact that the spirit soul is different from material body, then he is actually considered as a learned person. In that stage, he is situated in a platform which is called a Brahmabhuta platform, where he can be always happy. He become happy, jubilant. But as long as we are identifying ourselves with the body, we will always be in the anxiety, we'll always be unhappy, we'll always be in the miserable situation. Okay, so we may be in a different bodies, like you, as I was saying, there are 8.4 million species, and each species you have unlimited number of living entities, right? If you go and just dig your backyard, like you go and dig, like when summer is coming and then people will plant, you will see so many living creatures which are living inside the earth, right? If you go in the sea, there are millions and millions of living entities who are living inside the sea, like so many fishes, so many this, that. So you can see, like, there are totally, like, if we have to count, we cannot count the number of species which we have. Even today, scientists are not able to count how many species are there. But our Shastra says that there are 8.4 million species. And not just on this planet, but talk about the entire planet. There are so many planets within this universe. And then like that, there are so many other universes as well, right? So all these species, all these living entities are traveling within this whole universe and other universes and taking birth here, there. So it's like a cycle. You start from zero and gradually evolve. Like even the bacteria also, as I was saying, soul. So imagine, like, when we take yogurt has so many bacteria. So each of those has soul, right? Similarly, our body itself, we are the prime occupier of this body, but inside our body itself, there are so many bacteria, so many other living entities living. So all of them has soul. So imagine this big body. So we are the prime occupier, but then there are others also, small bacteria who are also living in this body, who are also occupying, and they are also taking their nourishment from this body. But actually we are the main. So consider like a big, we say, condo building where there are so many people living. So that's how our body is. Like, we are the main occupier, but then there are other living entities, small ones, who are there and sustaining on this. Okay. So now this message which Krishna gives about the science of soul, that the soul is eternal and there was never a time when we did not exist, and there will never be a time when we will cease to exist. Like, that means there is no point for Arjun to lament about killing his relatives, because what he was doing actually is just killing or like destroying the body, but the soul is eternal. As soon as the body becomes unfit to stay, the soul is just go and takes another form, right? So that means all these 8.4 million species, including humans, have been existing from the very beginning. In next couple of classes, we will discuss more about the how this creation begins, how everything happens, and it becomes more clear. But at least our Shastras are clear that these species have been coexisting from the very beginning. It's not that humans were not there in the beginning and they have evolved over the period of time from monkeys. No, that all of us who has gone to school has heard this about Darwin theory, that we have evolved from monkeys, that we were monkeys before, and over the period of time it becomes human. No, Bhagavad Gita does not confirm that theory. That's simply a theory, because humans have been there from beginning itself. All these species are there and they were coexisting from the beginning. So monkeys were also there, humans were also there, Devi Devtas are also there. They are also part of Jiva Tattva, because we need to understand that they are more elevated than us. They have more powers than us. They are living materially more opulent life than us, more facilities than us, but ultimately they are also bound by these laws of nature, where they also have to give up their Devi Devta body and again take birth. So they also have to go to the cycle of birth and death. So up till right up to the even Brahma ji is not cannot conquer death. So many big demons asked for this boon from Brahma, that please let us become Amar, like eternal. And Brahma says, even I am not eternal. How can I give you this boon of becoming eternal in this material world? But having said that, Lord Krishna can do that, because there is a world beyond this material world where everything is for eternal, right? And we'll discuss more about that other world later. But just to give you idea, and that out of the whole creation which is there, only 25% creation is material. Rest 75% creation is spiritual creation. And in that 75% creation, spiritual creation, everything is for eternity. There is no, the four problems which I was mentioning, birth, death, old age, disease, they do not exist in the spiritual world. The spiritual world also has similar, everything is there. Like people there, they also live there, but they live for eternity. There is no, nobody has to die there, nobody has to live, like they live for eternity there, right? So, and the Bhagavad Gita gives this knowledge about how to reach that spiritual world. Krishna says, whoever goes to that spiritual world does not ever have to come back to the material world to suffer, right? So this is the place where we are in is not a pleasant place to be in, because it's full of suffering. Today, you may be thinking that you are enjoying, but actually that enjoyment is very minute enjoyment, and that to a temporary flickering enjoyment compared to the enjoyment which is waiting for us in the spiritual world, right? Because here we think we are enjoying life, people are enjoying, but that enjoyment is very, you can say, flickering enjoyment. It's always relative. Material enjoyment is always flickering. Okay, so now next question. Where does the soul, now we say that we are the soul, we establish this fact, and we are covered in this body. So where in this body soul actually, what's the location of soul? Where does the soul resides in the body? Those who have
It's,
already gone through Bhagavad Gita, let others give
yeah.
chance. Just guess, or even if you know this, where does the soul actually reside?
Is it subconscious mind?
Subconscious mind? No. Any other?
In the heart, Prabhu?
Yes, that's the right answer. So soul actually resides in the heart, but it's so minute. It's so minute that we cannot see it through any material, you can say, elements or microscope. So anyone knows what is the size of the soul? It's also mentioned in our scriptures. What is the size? It gives all information about the soul. What is the size of the soul?
Prabhu, I believe it is written saying that it is the smallest of smallest.
Yes, smallest of smallest. That's true. It's so small that we cannot even forget about seeing through our naked eyes. We cannot even see through any microscope or any instrument. So it's mentioned the size of soul is 1/10,000th part of tip of the hair. So you see our hairs, if you take the tip of the hair, divide it into 100, and take that part again, divide it into 100, that's the size of the soul. And it's again mentioned in our scripture. I think one of the Puranas mentioned it's 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. That's how small the soul is. It's less than even any atom. Like today, even scientists cannot see the smallest atom. So forget about seeing the soul. And that's why, just hold it. So that's why many of the scientists deny the existence of soul. Many of so-called, because they can't see it, but anything which we can't see, it doesn't mean it doesn't there, right? So soul resides in the heart and it provides the consciousness to the whole body. Just like sun provides light to all the planets within this universe, but sometimes sun gets covered with cloud and with our naked eyes we cannot see. Like today it's in Brampton cloudy, we can't see the sun, but that doesn't mean sun does not exist, right? So similarly, if we can't see something with our eyes, that doesn't mean things does not exist, because our senses are limited. We do not have perfect senses. One of the faults in us is that we have imperfect senses, right? So with that imperfect senses, we cannot see everything. Sometimes people challenge, like particularly saying like that if you think that God exists, that show us the God. But do we have eyes to see the God, right? We have to ask. Okay, so soul exists inside the heart, right? And there is a verse in chapter 2 which also proves the theory of, not the theory, the reality of reincarnation, when Krishna says that soul never dies and it takes the body as we change the clothes. That means after leaving this body, soul takes another body, and this process of reincarnation keeps on going and on, going on and on and on. So next I'll ask, so we understand soul. So what is the super soul? And even knows soul means Atma, super soul means Paramatma. So what is the super soul?
So Prabhuji, super soul is, the source of, where all the souls are kind of coming from. Like it is what is like energizing everything, or like, we're all kind of a part. The super soul is what kind of gives existence to all the other souls.
Yes, kind of, yes. So super soul is expansion of the Lord. So you see, like Lord Krishna is there. When we discuss about the Lord Krishna, then we'll come to this. But for now, you understand that super soul, that supreme soul, who is aware about all the souls, right? So it's an expansion of Lord. So Lord himself is residing with us. Sometimes people question that where is the God? Show me the God. God is within us only as a super soul. And difference between soul and super soul is that soul is very minute. Super soul is big, like in quality, and soul is part and parcel of super soul. So we are part and parcel of the supreme Lord Krishna. And we are only cognizant of our own body. Soul is only cognizant of our own body, but super soul is cognizant of all the living entities, because no matter a bacteria or a tree, the Lord Krishna is so merciful that he has not left us alone in this struggle in this material world. So he has agreed to accompany us wherever we go in this material world. So super soul is always accompanying the soul in every body which we take. And super soul is actually watching the soul. It's like two birds sitting on the tree. One bird is doing action, other bird watching. So super soul is always watching the soul, what he is doing, what our actions is doing from time immemorial. And he's just simply waiting for the soul to turn towards him. And when the soul actually turns towards him, super soul, that's when super soul starts giving knowledge from within and connects one to the devotees, to this devotional process. That's the special mercy which comes in someone's life when he starts inquiring about all this, when he gets introduced to the devotees. This is the mercy which Lord Krishna gives to that wandering soul, which is wandering in this material universe for infinite millions and billions of years too. And what is that blessing? That by coming in contact with devotees, by coming in contact with scriptures, that soul is ultimately understands his true position and inquires, what is my relationship with this super soul and why I'm suffering here? That when that inquiry starts, that means Lord has shown his special favor to that particular living entity by connecting him to this process. Okay, but first step needs to be taken by living entity. Like Lord is so merciful that he's accompanying us wherever we go. Even our relatives, our near and dear ones, can only go to, like it's mentioned in Garud Puran, that when the person dies, leaves the body, the wife only stays till the door, and the relatives go till the funeral. But after that, within a month, everyone just forgets, right, and moves on. But Lord is so merciful that he does not leave us. He goes, accompanies us as super soul in whatever form we go, and keep watching us, hoping that someday or the other, this soul who is lost in this material world will look towards me. And as soon as he looks, then the super soul as Paramatma starts giving the knowledge from within, starts giving the inspiration from within, and starts guiding the person from within, right? So I'll give you now a very nice, like many people ask this question, right? Have you seen the God? I'll give you all this very nice understanding where you can relate, at least feel the presence of God. So whenever we do or try to do something wrong, there is some voice comes from within, right? Don't do this. Have anyone noticed, like some voice, some people say it's my inner conscious is not allowing me to do. How many of you have noticed the voice coming from within, guy telling you do this, not do this, this is right, this is wrong? How many of you have experienced that? Can you?
Yes.
Have
Yes,
you
sometimes we do get experience.
Huh?
Sometimes yes, sometimes yes, we do have that feeling. Like when we
Yes.
are doing something, like it strikes almost at a time, like this is not good for us. But
Right.
not all the time, but sometimes.
Okay, sometimes. How about others? Madhava ji, have you experienced any of this, like something coming from within and telling?
I believe, I think it is part of everybody's life that on a daily basis there are so many deeds what we do, which the inner consciousness will not allow you to do the bad thing, right? I think
Yes,
it's a part of everyone's
correct.
life on a daily basis.
Yes, that's true. So that inner consciousness which we are saying, which prohibits of doing us bad things, that is the presence of Lord. So that is Lord as Paramatma telling us, do this, not do this, do not do this bad thing. Like, so that is the proof for anyone who challenges that God does not exist, because that inner voice, that inner consciousness, or that third sense, whatever people say, is the God. And when someone starts progressing on this path of spirituality, when someone starts making progress, it becomes more and more prominent that the soul gets the guidance or the instructions from within to progress on this path. As I was saying, the super soul keeps waiting and just watching the activities of the soul, what he's doing and all that. And that's how we do not know our past, but Lord Krishna as super soul knows all the past, you can say our past lives, all the body forms which we have taken, what we have done in the past. And also Lord Krishna knows our innermost desires, which we may not be knowing, because he's able to, because he's watching for us from the very beginning, from our existence here. So he knows what actions we have been doing, what actions, what are our desires, and based on that, by connecting those, he knows where we are going. And when the appropriate time comes, then Lord Krishna is the one who connects the lost soul with the devotees, and through the medium of devotees, through the medium of the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, the instruction starts coming in, and one's life, when that happens in someone's life, that means this is a special mercy which has come in the form of from the Lord himself in that person's life. So that person is very, very, very fortunate who actually gets attraction to spirituality or attraction towards understanding this process. Because there are millions and billions of people. How much is the population of world? 6 billion. That is on just this planet, right? And I'm talking about humans. Now, if I talk about all the living entities, it's infinite. You cannot count, like bacteria, as I was saying, small trees, plants, fishes, four-legged animal, two-legged animal, you can't count. So how, and then human form is considered as the topmost form in all the living species. And within human forms also, we had 400 species, right? 400 different species of humans, like someone may be born in Africa, like people are looking different, like there is so many different forms. And it's mentioned in Shastras that a person who takes birth in the holy land of India, which is called Bharatvarsh, considered topmost. That's the topmost birth which you can take in this material world, because that gives you naturally inclination to understand this message of Bhagavad Gita. So those who have born in India, you are most fortunate, because of our previous years of piety, pious karmas, we have been given that opportunity to take birth in India. And furthermore, those who are trying to understand this knowledge are much, much more fortunate. Otherwise, it's just a waste of human life, because this human form is very, very precious. As I was saying, there are 8.4 million species. So after revolving in those 8.4 million species, we come to human form of life, right? And within that human form, there are 400 species. And to come to that topmost consciousness where we are able to inquire or ask this question is considered top. So dear devotees, don't take it for granted that his human form is something very cheap. No, it's not. We have got this human form after many, many millions years. If I give you just an average, 1 year in each species, if one person has to spend, if a living soul has to spend, then also it takes 8.4 million species to circle around the whole cycle, right? And this is just an average, because there are many species, like trees, who lives for thousands of years. And then there are some who lives for a few hours. Like there are some small insects. Many of you who have seen in India, there are insects, particularly in rainy season, they come in the night and they dwindle by the daytime, like they are dead. And within that 8 to 10 hours, they create more progeny, like they create more insects, and all of them then die. Like that. So there are different creatures with different lifespan. But on an average, if we consider 1 year that a soul has to spend in each species, then also it will take 8.4 million or 8 million years, earthly years, to come to this human form, right? And then what we do in this human form determines our next. So if we don't act according to scriptures, and if we fall down in that cycle of species, birth and death, that 8.4 million species, then we have to evolve and come back to this human form again, like I don't know after how many births. So don't take it for granted that this human form is given to us, then we will be humans even in next. No, it's not. There is no guarantee. We'll discuss more about that when we discuss about the karma. But just to tell you that this is something very, very precious. Because why it's precious? Because in all other forms, species of form, Lord has not given that intelligence for them to understand this message of Bhagavad Gita, to escape from the cycle of birth and death. So they had to suffer. For example, I cannot speak this message to a cat or a dog. They won't understand this message. So they have to suffer in that species. They have to go through the cycle of evolution. And in other species, there is also no concept of karma. Like they don't incur sin, they don't incur pious. Like there is no punya pap in their species. They just, like for example, if tiger kills someone, there is no sin for tiger. Only in the human form we have this karma theory. It applies to us. And that's why this is more responsible. And that's why we have been given more privileges, more facilities compared to other species, right? For example, there is a government judge, right? Like, let me give you an analogy from material world. So he's in a responsible position. So he has given a lot of facilities, lot of security, or for that matter, a prime minister of a country, lot of facilities of bungalow, which is foolproof of security, because he's at the responsible position. His responsibilities are higher than a common citizen. Similarly, this human form has higher responsibility, higher means, higher goals compared to other forms. That's why we have been given all privileges to live comfortably. Like the dog and cat, they do not have homes like us. We have been given this privilege that we can live comfortably under the roof. Because if one does not have basic food, home, these facilities, then with hungry stomach, he can't understand this knowledge. So first of all, Lord gives sufficient means for everyone to live comfortably. And then he gives this special intelligence only to humans to inquire about this message of Bhagavad Gita, to inquire, who am I? Why I am come here? What is my relationship to the Lord? How can I go back to the spiritual world? There is no misery. How can I regain my spiritual body? All these things are given to us. Okay. Any questions here so far? Just 1 second.
Prabhu, a very layman's question from me,
Yes.
because I was questioning this myself from a long time. Like, as you said, every living species has a soul within, its own heart, and even the super soul
Yes.
exists, right? I
Right.
mean, why does not the supers? I mean, if for example, if we take human among all the species, every human, I believe, they do good things and the bad things also, right? If the decisions made by the humans say they are going in a wrong way, why does not the super soul existence would prevent those actions to be done, so that I mean, humans can have a better life. I mean, right? For example, we see all the day, I mean, so many crimes happening around us, right? As an example, I'm telling, and lots of suffering is there, right?
Yes.
Why does not the super soul guide that individual person or
Yes.
human to do better things and good things?
Correct. So yes, I get your question, like why the bad things start happening. Because, okay, so there is something called two concepts here. So all of us as a living entities has certain free will. Free will meaning it's not that we are completely uh, bound. We had certain free will, certain free independence. Now, when a person tries to do certain bad things, as you were saying, and I also experience, everyone of experience, the spirit, the super soul, Paramatma does caution that person that this is wrong, you should not do it. That voice does come. But if a person, because of his demoniac nature, because of his bad nature, keeps ignoring and continuously engages in those bad activities or prohibited activities, then Lord does not interfere. He says, oh, so be it, like you have to further suffer your actions in later. So in that way, the super soul does caution, does warn, but after a moment, after certain time, when we keep ignoring time after time after time, then that super soul stops guiding that person. And that's how we see all these criminals or all these murderers and all these things, they commit mistakes. So one should not blame that this is on God, like he could have stopped it. True, Lord from within does caution that person, but if the person misuses his free will, misuses his little independence which is given to him, and still engages, then the Lord says, so be it. Okay, you are responsible for your actions. So that's why we are responsible for our actions. We cannot blame anyone, any God, any Supreme Lord for our actions. And we also have to suffer the reactions which comes for those actions. When we discuss about the karma thing, we'll discuss this in more detail. But yes, we do have independence. Certain independence has been given to us to act, right? And if we misuse that independence which is given to us and act in the acts which are prohibited, which are sinful, then we have to suffer those reactions. Some reactions are immediate, we have to suffer within this life. Some reactions we have to suffer in future lives, but definitely we cannot escape the laws of nature. Even one may escape the law of court, but one cannot escape the law of nature. It's so stringent that one has to suffer, right? So yeah, so that's the answer, that Lord do not want people to do bad things, but also they do not, the Lord cannot, you can say, we had all free wills, and so Lord does not interfere in that free will. So if we misuse the free will, that's how the bad things starts happening. People misuse their free wills.
Hare Krishna,
thanks.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I share something?
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Yeah, Prabhu, like I think from historical point of view, what Mother Prabhu asked the question, right? So we saw like Krishna himself, peacemaker, he went to like to give the peace between Pandavas and Kauravas, right? And Kauravas, like he himself, super soul present there, but because of the free will, he didn't interrupt Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana of their decisions, right? If he wants to make a peaceful making, he can directly do, he can enforce the rules itself in that assembly, right? But he keep listening, like Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana also, and let the war happen. And at the end, like material nature, how punishes the Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, right? This way, like Super Soul is present himself there to make a peacemaking, but Pandavas listen to him, and Kauravas didn't listen to him. Soul and Super Soul right away present there, right? So, and this is one we can take, and also Ramayana also same thing. Anjaneya like went for peacemaking, but he didn't, like Ravana didn't listen, right? And they try to destroy, like kill Hanuman, right? And material nature take consideration, and it destroys the Lanka, like finally,
right. So yeah, that's true. So adding to this, like Dhritarashtra, right? As a father, he suffered so much. Like his sons were all killed, so they got killed, but then Dhritarashtra as a father lost all 100 sons. So there is this conversation, like he asked, because he at the end he understood that Lord Krishna is the supreme. Like initially he was just, so he asked, why I have to suffer this? So then Lord Krishna says, many births before, maybe hundreds of births before, you were a hunter and you killed the whole family of birds because you were hunter. You completely vanished the complete family, including all children. So you are suffering the reaction of those acts which you did in many past lives. So then the Dhritarashtra says that why I did not suffer immediately, why it took so much long. So then Krishna says that to get the piety to have 100 sons, took several births to accumulate that much pious credit to have 100 sons. And when you had that much piety to have 100 sons, now you are suffering. So you also have to suffer the same way that father and mother of those bird family suffer when their whole family you killed, and now you are suffering, right? So again, the law of karma came into play, why Dhritarashtra was suffering. And same is the case with Bhishma Dev. Like Bhishma Dev, even though he was very pious in this thing, but I was hearing that Bhishma Dev has to suffer towards the end. Like 6 months, he was lying on that bed of arrows. Imagine, his whole body was pierced with arrows. How much pain he must be having, tolerating. And he was in that situation for last 6 months after the war, because he has taken a vow that till his kingdom is secure, he will not leave his body. Again, he asked this question, that why I was suffering. Like I have not done any sinful acts in this life and in previous life, so Krishna says, go back 100 lives before, go back. So once you were a king and you killed a snake with your arrow, and that snake landed up on the thorns and he was dying. He actually suffered a lot before leaving his body because he was stuck in that thorns. So because of that, you are now suffering, and you are also feeling the same pain which that snake would have felt when you killed that innocent creature just for your enjoyment. So like that, Krishna explains. So Krishna, as I was saying, as a super soul, knows all our previous past karmas, and under the laws of nature, he decides when to give the reaction of a particular act, right? So that is, the laws of nature are very, very stringent and very difficult to understand. But no matter, like every action has a reaction, and we cannot escape that. So when we discuss more about the karma theory, we'll discuss what are the actions, what actions, like there are three kinds of actions. One are called karma, vikarma, akarma. What are all those, and what we should do to be on a safe situation, and what we can do to avoid these unwanted karmas. Other question which Arjuna asked, which we'll discuss, is he says that sometimes we know that this is wrong, but we are still forced by some force to act wrongly. So why is that? We'll discuss that also during that time. So coming back to the soul thing, I think we have 5 minutes left. So we discussed today that we are the soul and not this body. This body is temporary, and everyone has to change this body. Now let's come back that how the soul is covered with body. So does anyone know how many bodies we had, how many coverings we had for the soul? Is it 5 covering, 1 covering, 2 covering, 3 covering? Any guesses, or anyone knows how many coverings we had?
I think it's 5, Prabhuji.
Not sure.
No, there are two bodies we had. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. So the body which we see here, which you can see, which I can see, is gross body. It's called gross body, okay? Which is made up of 5 elements: earth, fire, water, air, ether, okay? So earth, water, fire, air, ether. We can all see these elements, but our body, because on this planet Earth, the water is in abundance. So our 70% body is water, right? Rest other elements. But we have earth also, because there is a fire also inside our body. Because when we take any food, there is a fire which ignites in the belly, which digests that food. And Krishna says, I am that fire. So Krishna is everything. He is the source of everything. So there is fire. Water, we already know it's made up of water. Then there is air. There are 5 kinds of air which are circulating in our body: Pran Vayu, Apan Vayu. Like those who know yoga, they know there are different airs which are there. Ether. Ether is called space. So all of us has so much space inside our body. So our gross body is made up of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Now there is another body called a subtle body, Sukshma Sarir. That is made up of 3 elements. Mind, intelligence, and false ego. Just 3 elements: mind, intelligence, false ego. Just note these 3. So our subtle body is made up of 3 elements, and subtle body always accompanies the soul. So when the soul leaves this body at the time of death, that subtle body also goes along with soul, and super soul also travels in that subtle body, and that subtle body enters into another body, and that's how it goes. So soul is always covered under the subtle body, which means subtle body, that mind, intelligence, false ego, which means our mind, intelligence, and false ego are not changing when the soul changes the body. It remains same. That means our mind, intelligence have throughout been same. Even though we have changed the bodies, we have taken now the body of human. Before that, we have taken different bodies, but our mind, intelligence is same. Okay, this is not changing. It is material. It is material, but it is subtle. Subtle means we can't see it. So subtle. And soul actually travels in their subtle body to next destination and next. That's why our mind carries the impressions of all our past lives, because it's not changing when the soul takes the body. Okay, so mind, intelligence, false ego. Man, buddhi, ahankar. This is the Hindi translation. Man means mind, buddhi means intelligence, ahankar means false ego. Now this false ego is the one, ahankar, which is the cause of our existence in this material world. Because with this false ego, what it makes us to believe is we are the body, that I am powerful, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I am this body. So that because of that false ego, we get this impression or that feeling that I am this body, and that makes everyone stay in the material world. That's the last thing to go. Okay, so mind, intelligence. Mind is man, right? Mind has a lot of thoughts, keeps coming. Like it says, on an average, a human mind generates 40 or 50,000 thoughts every day, right? And if we are not in the good company, if we are not attending the satsangs, if we are not reading the scriptures, 80% thoughts would be negative. So that's why it's very, very essential for us to read our scriptures, because that gives good thoughts and give more positivity. Okay, so our mind keeps generating the thoughts. Okay, let's do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, like do this. Just its role is, it's like a monkey, it keeps jumping around. It's very, very difficult to control the mind. Even Arjun says. Now, intelligence, the role of intelligence is a gatekeeper. It filters those thoughts. Okay, this is right, this is wrong. It has that intelligence. It's a gatekeeper, and it basically filters those thoughts and say, okay, I will do this, I will not do this. So mind keeps generating thoughts, and intelligence is a gatekeeper. It filters those thoughts and only allows certain things to be done, and not allow all things to be done. However, if a person's mind and intelligence is not under his control, then it can create havoc in one's life, right? If it says that controlled mind is the best friend, but uncontrolled mind is our worst enemy. Many of you have heard this saying. So, this constitutes the subtle body which we had, and the soul actually travels in that subtle body and changes the body one after another. Okay, so I think we are 12:16. I'll just summarize what we discussed today, and we'll take this discussion forward in the next class too. Now, what I will do is just share my screen, and I'll just share those verses, from Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so you can all read chapter 2 translations, because today we discuss about the soul. So text 12, chapter 2 says, this is Krishna speaking to Arjun. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So here he talks about and he dispels and he completely, you can say, destroys his reasoning that why you are mourning, because nobody is gonna die. So what are you mourning for? Like, what are you worried about? And he says that as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Okay, so he said even within our body we can see. So when we were child, when we were teenager, we had a different body. Now we had a different body, right? Completely our body is changing. So even within the current body, we can see that soul is passing from boyhood to youth to old age. Similarly, at the time of death, when this body becomes unusable, soul simply takes another body. So there is nothing to be bewildered out about such a change. Okay, so, and then he says, this is important, that son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So here he's talking about the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and this is material happiness and distress he's talking here, that because we are in this material world, so there would always be some happiness and some distress, but this is non-permanent. In everyone's life, there is some happiness comes, sometimes distress comes, and it keeps coming and going, right? Like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season, it keeps happening. Nobody is here can claim that he is he doesn't have any distress, or he never has any distress, or he never gets any challenging situations in the life. He says these arises because of sense perception, because we are connected with the body, but these are all at the bodily level. And a sober person must learn to tolerate them without getting disturbed. So if he can tolerate them, because these comes and then go away also. Yeah. And then he says, for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, nor does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, primal. He is not slain. So soul cannot be killed, and he does not take birth. Then he says, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill when the body is slain? And he gives this example of putting on new garments. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Okay. Soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned, nor moistened, nor withered by wind. It's so small, it can't be, and then it's very powerful because it's a part of Lord, right? So it's very, very powerful. Individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, can neither be burned, dried, everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It's eternally the same. It does not lose its characteristic. And then further it talks about, so these are, and then he gives the proof of reincarnation. One who has taken birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So he's saying, just do your duty, do your karma as a matter of duty. Don't worry about anything, because one who has taken birth is sure to die, and the die is just bodily dying. Like he's leaving just the body, and sure he has to take birth again. Okay. So this is the summary of what we discussed. Next class, we'll continue on this topic and understand more about the science of soul and conclude. Any questions so far? Are you all okay? Following? Did you all follow what we discussed?
Yes, Prabhu.
So I see Sangeeta ji, I think Sangeeta Vasishtha ji, did you join today first time, or you were, I didn't, yes, you were there last time.
Yeah, that's right. I actually missed the last class.
Okay. But were you able to follow today what we discussed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It was very knowledgeable and insightful.
Okay. Yeah, this Bhagavad Gita talks about all the knowledge about which we really need. So we'll discuss more in detail next class also. We'll continue about this. And yeah, and also I see Mukesh ji, thanks for joining. I think you also joined today first time, right?
No, Prabhuji, I was there last time as well.
Oh, you were there? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Pradeep ji, okay. Rahul Mesur, are you able to follow?